This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Cornette, Bubba Rogers, Loverboy Dennis, and beautiful Bobby. You all know him. And you know something, Tony? I've said many times that my mother's a wealthy woman. She has a lot of influence with people. Well, Bubba Rogers is an old friend of the Cornette family from Louisville, Kentucky. Every time that my mother's had a little job that needed to be done or a debt that needed to be collected, some little errand or something, Bubba's been more than happy to do it for a little financial recompensation. But you know, hey, everybody's out to make a living, and Bubba was sent down here because you see with those backstabbing, back-jumping James boys on the loose, Dusty and Magnum, with them trying to jump me from behind, do me bodily harm. These men are the World Tag Team Champions. They got to concentrate on getting in that ring and defending their title and wrestling the best they know how, which they're the best at. So Mama sent Bubba down to be my bodyguard, Tony. And from now on, I'm going to say this, James boys, and anybody else that wants to lay a finger on me or do me any kind of harm, you're going to have to go through Bubba Rogers. And believe me, James boys, you talk about being outlaws. Well, Bubba Rogers has done some pretty nasty things in his time, and he's not opposed to doing a few more as a favor to me and my mother. He's been taking care of me for a long time now. So, James boys, that's the notice. Bubba Rogers is my bodyguard. Loverboy Dennis and beautiful Bobby are going to be defending the World Tag Team titles as best they know how, and I know what you're going to say.
We want to see it tape.
The James boys, they're back jumpers. In addition to that, Jim Crockett Promotions on their side.
Let's take a look at the tape that we're talking about. You're talking about unmasking the James boys, David. That's what he's been talking about for a long time. We're going to take a look at the James boys.
Promotions is on their side. Everybody's on their side because the plain fact of the matter is we would have had them right here if it hadn't been for the sneaky trick. Look at that. We come in the ring. Hey. They talk about being outlaws. We'll outlaws.
You're coming in after the James boys. And now, Jim, here is your chance to expose the James boys.
We're trying to expose the James boys, but look what happens. Look what happens. As soon as I get in the ring, I tell my boys, I said, get the mask off that clown. Let's see his ugly face. Let's show the whole world his face. And look at this, the ultimate indignity. Jim Crockett Promotions, I know, is behind it. I know that everybody was paid off to do this. It's that bum, that no-good clown, Tony Zane, and look who's behind the
He's one of the James boys.
Dusty Rod. No, it wasn't one of the James boys.
Well, they came with the black mask and the riding coats.
He was one of the fake James boys. He wasn't one of the real James boys because the real James boys are fake James boys.
That's right.
I mean, the Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA is who the James boys are, and everybody knows it. And it was Tony Zane and some other clown that got hired by Jim Crockett and the NWA, who's against. What do you want?
Okay.
Jimmy Cornette,
Baby doll's
I
here.
dare you. I dare you to get in the ring during a match because, you see, I have a little surprise for you. You see, because I don't think you'll get in any tights in the match because I'm going to put my curves in the tights because I've got a little surprise for you. Dusty and Magnum TA have taught me something that's going to blow the whole United States, the whole world away, and I'm going to put it on you, Cornette. That's my dare to you.
Sounds like a challenge to me.
Hey, I know what Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA have been teaching her. Baby doll, ain't no woman in the world can beat a man in a wrestling match. You want me in the ring, you fat hog, you got it.
Oh, my goodness, an irate Jim Cornette. This has not been his day. Coming right back.
There we go. Place to Be Nation Wrestling Network. Welcome back to episode 48 of the NWA Crock and Roll podcast. I am hosting once again. I am Callum McDougall, sitting in the hot seat for Sean Kidd as he enjoys some rest and relaxation after globetrotting the the potential host cities for the 1987 Crockett Cup. But fear not, as the 3/4 of the Horsemen are with you for this one. Joining me first is the co-host of the NWA Saturday Special, Dr. G. Dr. G, how are you?
I am doing great, enjoying breaking down these Crockett shows, May of '86. Pretty busy month. Maybe not as busy as April, but I'm enjoying it. The thing is, it just takes you back, and then, on the last episode, I didn't remember that Mr. Electricity Regal was in Crockett, so sometimes it jogs my memory on things that I couldn't remember. So good stuff. Looking forward to breaking down tonight's show.
Yeah, it's good to uncover. Hidden gems, quote unquote. Maybe Mr. Electricity might turn out to be a gem right enough. But yeah, May has been a good ride as well. Joining us for the ride to close out May '86 is the one and only Scott Shiflett. Schiff, how you doing tonight, sir?
Well, I'm a whole lot better because I don't have to watch that horrible Arn and Wahoo match that we talked about last episode, or even talk about it again. That Mr. 2.5 Sean gave it when it's really a 0.5.
Yes, the mysterious 2.25, 2.5 star rating for that one. We still haven't uncovered whether or not it is a typo, whether or not we've watched the same match. And we've not actually uncovered the name of the Mystery Highway to the Impact Zone host that has given it 2.5 stars. So the investigation continues. We'll go SummerSlam '94 and get Leslie Nielsen on the case to try and uncover this one, because it was a mystery to the three of us. But it did lead to one of my all-time favourite couple of minutes on the podcast where we all collectively ranted about the match and that particular rating as well.
Yeah, that is very true. So it's like, yeah, come on, that's a terrible match.
Every cloud has a silver lining, but hopefully this episode we won't provide you with any strange ratings or rants about how bad things are. And we kick off. This episode will fully take place around, or the majority of it will take place around the 31st of May episode of World Championship Wrestling, and we open up the podcast with a promo from Ricky Morton. The segment begins with house show footage from a Ricky Morton-Ric Flair match, which shows a Horseman beatdown and Flair breaking Morton's nose with a knee drop off the second rope whilst Morton is being held down, and then a second one just from the ring, again whilst he's being held down. Morton comes to the desk wearing a mask and has another one in his hand. Morton says that Flair has been out here, out at the podium week after week, putting the Rock and Roll Express down, and that Flair is jealous because he can't beat the Rock and Roll Express. He says that he's had 2 specially made masks made so he can get back in the ring with him, because the way he was brought up, it's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth before walking off. A little bit later on, Flair is out and showing off a brand new custom fitted suit that he says that he's looking much better now than how the Horseman left Ricky Morton looking. He says that Morton is now going to carry around a mark that he will have for the rest of his life because he dared to think he was half the man that Flair is. He says that Morton crossed the line into no man's land, and now that makes him fair game for the 4 Horsemen. He then asked David Crockett to ask him something, and David is only too happy to do so, asking why it took 4 of them to beat down Morton. Flair says that he wasn't in trouble, but that Arn and Tully came down to congratulate him on another great victory, and Morton attacked them. He then makes his first comment in a while about how all of Morton's fans are young girls using a kid's bikini as a prop, which seemed unnecessary as he walks off wooing. 2 good promos, and if you ignore the last 30 seconds of the Flair one, they are even better. Flair had some excellent lines in it, namely the Morton will carry around a mark for the rest of his life because he dared to think he was half the man Flair is, and this was just textbook Flair, giving us a couple of sound bites to remember the promo by. So start off with you, Scott. What are your thoughts on these dueling promos from Ricky Morton and Ric Flair?
I love the Horseman beatdown of Morton. Like, he's such like a baby face you can get behind, and them just, holding him down, and while Flair drives the knees in and, quote unquote breaks his nose. And now we see Ricky and he has like the face mask on and like, the black eyes, which, as a kid, I'm sure I would have been like, oh my God, look how hurt he is. But now it's like, oh, I can clearly tell that's makeup. Just a great scene. And you stole my favorite line from me, Cal. I'm a little upset that the Horseman came to congratulate Flair for winning. I love that. That was just a great line. And I actually thought it was funny when he brought out the bathing suits for Morton's girlfriends. It's such like a smarmy Flair thing to do. And then Flair said that he's there to stay forever, and he woos, which by the time this airs, Flair may have died at the StarCast event. So we don't know if he's here forever or not. But it just when people think of 80s Ric Flair, of how like smarmy he can be, this is what people should think of. Just of like how he also said he was looking better than Ricky Morton, which I loved, and like he's just laughing it off and everything. I just ate it up. Just not hell of a knockout segment for both Morton and Flair, which I'm shocked this feud is still going, guys, to be completely honest, because it seemed like Flair had moved on to Hulk.
Well, it seems like it's got a wee bit a bit of juice left in it yet. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on these two promos?
Let me tell you, does Morton sell well or what? I mean, when you watch that beatdown, he is just so awesome. I mean, and the chemistry these two had together. And like I said, Flair said this is one of his favorite opponents. And you felt it when I remember at that time, because Ricky Morton was so popular, you felt like Ricky Morton was going to possibly be the next champion. Like they really, really set up that feud so well. And, Flair being so swarmy that he is, that's, again, he just created good heel heat by just the things he did, he said. And it makes you want to see these two go at each other. Flair, just like Dusty, sometimes had his hand in a bunch of different feuds as well. So even though it's moving on to Hawk, this Flair Morton thing kind of goes on and off for a while. They just had great chemistry. And Ricky Morton, the Rock and Roll Express, people do not realize. Obviously, the Road Warriors were very popular. But the Rock and Roll Express, they were up there in the top, 2 or 3 most popular draws in wrestling at that time. So don't discount that. I mean, they sometimes were on the A show, like when they would tour, like I know they didn't call it like that, like they did WWF, but like you wanted to be on a card that the Rock and Roll Express were on back in those days. So just love it. I love this whole setup. I love the chemistry between Flair and Morton, and Morton doing the great sell job. And he wasn't the best on the mic, but he wasn't also the worst either. So just one of those guys, when you were younger, that was the guy you wanted to root for, the underdog, Ricky Morton. So good stuff.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I can imagine guys looking at the booking sheet, if they saw that they were on with the Rock and Roll Express. You're not disappointed because you're on the loop that's getting main evented by a tag match, because I can imagine those nights that the Rock and Roll Express were headlining were probably serious money makers for the guys as well. So good stuff. We move on to our next segment, which starts with Sandy Scott introducing himself as he is the chair of the press conference that we've all been waiting for, the contract signing for the United States Championship match between Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff. Scott announces that the match will take place on World Championship Wrestling Live on the Superstation on Saturday, June the 8th, which just happens to be a week from the episode that we're watching it. Scott passes the contract to Magnum TA, who signs it without hesitation, and then moves it over to Ivan, who goes over it one last time before signing it, saying that it is in line with everything that they had agreed upon. Scott introduces Ivan formally as the spokesperson for Nikita, as he says he has a statement he wishes to make. He begins by saying that because of all the controversy in coming to the agreed terms, Magnum, despite all the controversy, in coming to the agreed terms, Magnum will finally meet Nikita for the US title, and Nikita will beat him for the US title. Nikita takes over and questions why Magnum has brought his mother with him and calls him a mummy's boy, which Magnum doesn't take too kindly to. Nikita continues on about Magnum's mum and goes one step too far, which leads to Magnum hopping the table and diving on Nikita. Sandy Scott takes a tumble in the ensuing chaos as the Koloffs lead Magnum lane as they walk off. We then head back to the table where Tony has Jim Crockett Jr., who reiterates that we will have the US title match next week in his usual charismatic manner. It's a very straightforward and effective segment, I thought, and another instance of JCP using something like this to great effect. And as I said in the last episode about the Crockett Cup reveal, I'm a sucker for this type of thing, to make it look as if it goes beyond your usual professional wrestling tropes and into something that looks like a legitimate sport. I'm all over that. So I thought this was very good. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on the US title press conference?
You know, I'm a sucker. I always loved the press conference thing, and you knew something was always going to happen. You know, that's just the reality of it. But I love, you know, when they pass the contract. I always wonder, what the heck are they really signing? You know, like, is it a real contract? I was trying to see, you know, like, I always wonder what they used for that. But I like when they pass it over to Ivan and he's looking over it intently, and, you know, he's you know, it's like really serious. And then, you know, of course, you knew once he started putting down, you know, TA's mom and all that, then you knew where that was going. But again, good heel heat, good stuff, makes the match seem really big. You know, like this is a big time event. There's a contract that's being signed. You know, the Russians, you know, had to get permission from the Kremlin. You know, they just make it seem like it's bigger than it really is. And you know, the funny thing is that maybe some of the matches between the two weren't always the greatest, but the people wanted to see it, and it put seats in, you know, butts in the seat. So good stuff. I love this stuff. So I always get a kick out of the whole press conference thing.
Yeah, me too. And it did look when I saw I was like you. I was looking intently to see what Ivan was looking over. It looked like a car lease he was signing off with all the information on it. But it makes you think, if he's looking over it, my first thought that Magnum signed that straight away. Magnum has signed up for something he maybe shouldn't have. So we will see if that leads anywhere, if my instincts are correct. Scott, what are your thoughts on the press conference?
Not to sound like a broken record, but like these press conferences that aren't in the ring but like somewhere else add like a bit of gravitas to matches. Like I remember Flair does a one on a boat, I think with Flair in the late 80s, and it's just a hell of a visual. But with this one, I loved Magnum getting called a mama's boy, and then Nikita saying woman in the Soviet Union is needed to stay at home. And like, you know, and he goes, that's why it proves that the women in the Soviet Union are better than your mother. And then, you know, Nikita, of course, starts fighting him, and the Russians like beat down Magnum. And it was just a great visual. And, you know, we're finally going to have this match next week, which is crazy that they're just giving this away on you know, random TV. I thought it'd be more of a build up, to be honest. I know we've been building to it, but like this seemed like just another step to like, oh, you know, I want it on my terms, quote unquote. Like we signed for the match, but I want it for my terms of like where it will be. You know, maybe that's in the contract that Magnum didn't read with this 15% APR rating. But no, it's I'm looking forward to this match because it's been a lot of build up. So, and I can't believe it's just happening so soon.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that. I mean, like you just mentioned that the match could be anywhere. I mean, how if they had waited a couple of weeks, you could have easily have said that, like, and filmed it in a studio somewhere or a warehouse somewhere, get a few extras, and say that they had signed the match from to take place in the Kremlin, and you have like a couple of weeks of Magnum going out to Moscow and all that sort of thing. It would have been, but I suppose hindsight's a wonderful thing. Almost 40 years in the future. But no, again, suckers for press conferences, and as we mentioned in the last one, big changes happening this week. Hopefully that's a trope that that a certain new head of creative can maybe reintroduce back into the flamethrower, as the Podfather will say. So we move on to the next segment. It is a Tully Blanchard interview. Tully and JJ are out at the podium with Tony, who asks JJ about a tape that he's been talking about. JJ says it is a tape of the Friday, May 23rd, 1986 event at the Norfolk Scope, where wrestling history was made, as it was the first time that rugged Ronnie Garvin, Mr. Hands of Stone, was knocked out cold. The video begins, we see the video, and it begins with Garvin in the ring and JJ talking to the ring announcer because Tully is wearing a sling. Now I'm going to recap the video, as the interview with JJ and Tully has been drowned out mostly by the crowd noise. So the video continues, and Dillon has Leo Burke with them. Burke being a former Canadian Golden Gloves champion, according to the commentary, according to the comments in the background. And Burke is going to replace Tully in a match with Garvin, which looks like it's a taped fist match. Tully hypes up Burke's boxing abilities at the table. I can hear that. And Garvin in the video is wailing away at Burke before JJ comes in the ring. Garvin ducks a shoe shot attempt by ducking, and Dillon hits Burke in the forehead. Garvin then knocks JJ into Tully who's on the apron, and Tully falls to the floor. Tommy Young is counting Burke down when Tully comes in and tackles Garvin from behind and starts to beat him down. Obviously, this sling is a ruse, and there is nothing wrong with Mr. Blanchard. You can hear the interview a bit better now, as Tully goes on a tirade about the fist tape, saying it's just regular athletic tape, but look what the regular athletic tape is doing to Garvin. And he compared himself hilariously to Sugar Ray Leonard and Garvin to Roberto Duran. Which I thought was excellent. Tully finishes the beatdown with a pile driver on the chair. I thought this was just good stuff all around. I love the Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran comparisons. Just excellent stuff all around. Another home run from Tully and JJ on here. So, Chef, what are your thoughts on this one?
Tully was on another level right here. I loved it. I love like how they were showing the highlights of the match and his arms in a sling, and like obviously it's a ruse. We all know it's a ruse, but like he just, we wait for it, and like when JJ goes down, he's like, that's why you have like a different plan, a backup plan for everything. And Tony's like a safety blitz, which I watch football and that has nothing to do with like a backup plan, Tony. But I loved how Tully was just knocked him out with a tape fist. So hopefully we get some tape fist matches where Tully can shut up Garvin and let him be the bum that he is, because it was just great. Like, Tully was just a madman. Oh, you see how much it uses with this? And Dusty wanted you to use the tape, and now look at me using the tape. And he knocks him out, and they're like, and JJ was like, history was made by Ron. I just loved it. Those two guys were great right there. I'm sorry, I can't gush over it anymore.
No, it was excellent stuff. Tully is on fire at this point in time. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on this one?
Not much more I could say. I totally agree with you guys. Tully is on in May. He is having some of his best promos. And I just love how he kind of is like trying to get in the head of Ronnie Garvin, which is just phenomenal. And the whole ruse of being in the sling. And I loved it. Like you said, the the Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran reference, especially, that's pop culture back in that time. So just good stuff. Again, the Horsemen, it's almost kind of unfair to the rest of the roster because you got really 5 guys that could just, if Ole was there, but that could just out-talk just about anybody. And just good stuff. I mean, JJ and Tully are really on in May. That's all I could say.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right what you say. It's almost unfair to guys. There'll be guys on that roster who are crying out for a manager like JJ to do their talking for them. And JJ is with Tully, who doesn't need a manager to do the talking for him. But as you said in the last episode, they're a match made in heaven, and it's just, they're on fire. They've been on fire throughout this whole month, and long may it continue. So someone else who's been on fire for the whole month is one James E. Cornette. And the next segment involves Cornette at the table with Tony, the Midnight Express, and his new bodyguard, Big Bubba Rogers. Cornette says that Bubba is an old family friend and they used to do some odd jobs for Mama Cornette, so she sent him down to be a bodyguard for Jim. He says that Bubba has done some very nasty things in his time and that the James boys are on notice. We then see footage of the Midnight Express trying to unmask one of the James boys. They manage to unmask the larger of the two gentlemen, and it is, of course, Tony Zane. America's team then came out to make a save, proving once and for all that they are absolutely 100% categorically not the James gang. Tony reiterates that Zane must be one of the James boys, and James E almost has an aneurysm, saying that Zane is a fake James boy because the real James boys are the fake James boys, and the real fake James boys are Magnum TA. And
that was amazing. I can't believe how you were able to get that, Callum, because when Cornette said that, I was like, I'm so confused right now, but it made perfect sense, and you got it verbatim. That was great.
Thank you very much. Cornette's evening is about to get even better as Baby Doll makes her way out to the podium. Baby Doll dares Cornette to get in the ring during the Bash Tour because Magnum and Dusty have taught her something that will blow the United States and the whole world away, and she's going to put it on Cornette. Jim then says what we're all thinking when he says he knows exactly what Dusty and Magnum have taught Baby Doll. And he says that no woman can beat a man in a wrestling match, and he accepts her challenge for the Great American Bash. So Jim Cornette against Baby Doll is on for the Bash Tour. Excellent stuff from Cornette as usual. This was a class above even what he's been doing already. He really is firing all cylinders with this angle, and he is selling it to absolute perfection. Yes, absolutely fantastic stuff from Jim Cornette. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on
it? I love Jim Cornette. I mean, and he talks so fast, and he gets everything out. Like, the whole thing with the James boys, it's just like making him crazy. Look at Bubba Rogers. I mean, look how young he looked there, right? I mean, it's crazy to the future big boss man there. But one thing about Cornette, again, just what he says, his interactions, the way he reacts to things, and he gets so crazy. Again, just perfect heel heat. And man, he could talk with just about anyone. I mean, it's just amazing. It's the stuff that just comes out of his mouth, and that stuff's not scripted. He just goes out there, and you just pull the cord, and there he goes. So I'm always a sucker for a good Jim Cornette promo, and this was one of them.
Yeah, you're right. And you're right when you say none of it is scripted. He talks so fast, but even the bit where he's talking about the real and the fake James boys, he knows exactly what he's saying. That came out exactly as he planned. It was just, he is absolutely excellent at this time. Scott, what are your thoughts on it?
Outside of me, telling you how great you did right there, him saying that Bubba was an old friend of the family, which, I guess they never really said what Mama Cornette did, but it made it sound like Big Bubba was like collecting sports gambling debts from me and Jacob Williams, and by breaking legs when we didn't pay. So I love that he's like, now that he's sent down to take care of the James boys, and I love like the fake unmasking and like Cornette just losing his damn mind over this, and him like shitting on Baby Doll. Oh, I'm sure Magnum and Dusty taught you some moves. Oh God, I lost it with that. But I said last episode maybe we were going to get a Cornette and Baby Doll confrontation, but it looks like it's going to be a full blown match and should be interesting. Hopefully Bubba's there to take care of his man. That's all I'm saying.
That is you called it. And we can only wait and see how Bubba and Baby Doll, or how Bubba deals with Baby Doll at the Great American Bash. Now, speaking of the Great American Bash, Tony and David are at the podium for our next segment, recapping what we already know about the Great American Bash tour, and then throws to a video announcement from NWA President Bob Geigel regarding Ric Flair and the World Heavyweight title when it comes to the tour. Geigel hypes up that the tour is going to 14 different cities, and this tour will be one of the biggest and most spectacular presentations in the history of professional wrestling. He then announces that Flair will take on Road Warrior Hawk in Philadelphia on the first night of the tour. The interviewer, who, apologies, I don't know the name of and I don't recognise him, so answers on a postcard, tells us that Flair is currently due to defend the title 14 times in 30 days, and asks what would happen to the remaining title defences in the event that Flair was to lose the title at some point during the tour. A very valid question indeed. Geigel tells us that this will absolutely tax the champion, and the new champion will automatically step in to the remaining bookings as world champion if a title change was to occur. Geigel then takes some time to congratulate Jim Crockett Promotions on the tremendous presentation that he is undertaking. Again, I thought this was a very quick and effective way to get across some of the big updates on the Bash Tour, presenting it as a special announcement from the NWA president as opposed to Jim Crockett Jr. coming out to the podium, added a bit of gravitas to. So I think me personally, and I think that hopefully that you guys as well, are going to start sounding like a broken record when we talk about how excellent and effective these type of segments are. But yeah, I love this one again. Hopefully I've not taken the words out of your mouth, Scott. What are your thoughts on this one?
Flair's getting hosed. He's got to wrestle, and this man's going to wrestle 45 minutes to an hour every night, 14 times in 30 days, and he'll stay up. He'll be up 21 out of the 24 hours. Doing coke, banging, and, partying. And this man has to wrestle, and, it's just crazy. It's like they're setting him up to fail, which obviously is the thing, but I wish it was more of a storyline reason. Now, I don't know if that's because, I grew up watching, I wasn't even born when this was happening. Like, I grew up in the 90s and, the 2000s and everything, watching wrestling. So I would like it more if there was a storyline reason for Flair saying oh, no one can beat me for the title, and maybe him and Crockett have a thing where he's like, all right, you'll wrestle 6 times, and Flair's like, make it 7, and then what about 8, and then 10, then they get to 14, and you see that Flair's scared instead of them just announcing Bob Geigel, who has the personality of a door stopper, who's doing this announcing for us, but. Flair's really going to show that he's the best in the world 14 times in 30 days in hot ass outside all over the Southeast.
Sorry,
I'm all over the place with that.
That's all right. That remains to be seen, because he could very well lose it on night 1 to Road Warrior Hawk. But that's not going 45 minutes because, as we found out previously, Hawk can't last more than 30. Yeah, I mean, I get your point about the story. Now, I don't know if the story that they are expecting you to get is that Flair has made all these enemies over the last few months. You've got Ricky Morton, you've got Robert Gibson, you've got the Road Warriors, you've got Magnum and Dusty, and all these people that he could defend the title. There's at least 4 or 5 guys on that list. I don't know if that's the story that they are expecting you to make in your head, but yeah, I think it just needs a bit more of hitting us over the head with it. Dr. G, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, like you, Callum, I like the fact that these updates, and they make it seem big. You got the NWA president, even though I agree with you, Scott. Bob Geigel is like a wet napkin, kind of, whatever. Whatever you want to think of him, but at least he was the NWA president. It makes it seem bigger. It's not just Jim Crockett. The thing is, what they love to do, the NWA, was to make their title seem like that is the real World Heavyweight Championship. That is the champion, whoever the champion in has to defend that title. Many nights, there's going to be 14 out of 30 nights he's going to be defending that title, like you said, outside the long match. But what they're also trying to do is, all right, guys, fans, you have an opportunity in one of those cities to possibly see a championship change. And that's why they wanted to make sure, okay, will the new champions still take on those matches? Yes, they will. And so this way, when you're selling it, when they're coming to each city, you have an opportunity. There's a possibility that you could see a new World Heavyweight Championship crown that evening. And so it's all calculated stuff that they're trying to do to try to make the NWA look like they are the mecca of professional wrestling, because at this time, WWF is coming on strong. But we this is where the real champions reside, here in the NWA. That's basically what they try to do when they're trying to pump up these things, do these updates, do these press conferences and all that good stuff. For the contract signings, try to make it look like this is where everybody wants to be. This is where all the real wrestling takes place at that time.
I completely agree. Excellent point. Excellent points well made there, sir. So, speaking of the Road Warriors, they are Road Warrior Hawk is, as we say, going to be the first challenger to Ric Flair on night 1 of the Great American Bash. But we taking a match from the 31st of May with Road Warriors. It's actually from day 14 of the All Japan Pro Wrestling Superpower Series, as the Road Warriors take on Giant, the team of Giant Baba and Matoshi Okuma. We get a fast start to this one as from the Road Warriors, as Hawk immediately takes control over Okuma with a whip into the rope and taking him down with a shoulder tackle. Hawk then tags in Animal, who hits a big body slam on Okuma, coming off of an Irish whip, and then follows it with a big elbow drop. Hawk is tagged back in, but Okuma gets a bit of separation and tags in Baba, who comes in with as much fire as Giant Baba can do, nailing Hawk with some punches and then a big boot. Both men exchange punches before Hawk takes down Baba with a scoop slam and follows up with a fist drop. Hawk then misses a diving headbutt from the second rope as Baba moves out the way, and the match breaks down a bit for a second. Hawk makes a tag to Animal, who takes down Baba with a big chop, and both men make tags to their partners. Hawk takes Okuma down with a big scoop slam and follows that up with a fist drop and a huge clothesline. Hawk then tags Animal back in as the Road Warriors double team Okuma, which ends up with Animal hitting a power slam from the second rope for the win. A really good outing here for the Road Warriors. It was a glorified squash match, but it did have a lot in it, given that it was only 2 minutes and 43 seconds in length. I actually went 1.75 on this one, only because it was quite short, but it did what it needed to do, and I thought it was a very enjoyable squash match while it lasted. So I'll go to Dr. G first. What are your thoughts on this one?
I went 2 stars. Just an average match. Kind of a squash match, which I was kind of shocked with Baba in it, just because of who he was. I mean, again, he doesn't do anything for me. Some of these Japanese matches just don't do anything for me. I don't see the lore. I understand that some of the Japan stuff got better, obviously in the 90s when you had the high flyers and all that. But some of these guys like Baba and all that, they just, the Road Warriors, yeah, they're meant to go in there and squash people, which they kind of did. But putting them in there, it just seemed very, at times it was just kind of slow and prodding, but I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I saw. That's why I gave it 2 stars, just because I always enjoy a good Road Warriors, squash in the end. But you can't really say much more than that. I mean, it was just okay. It's hard, when you're watching some of that, because you obviously, again, I like the announcing, and I obviously couldn't understand the announcing. And I know we get some of the matches where we don't have announcing at all. Yeah, I mean, 2 stars. I wouldn't go any more than that, to be honest. But it was something like, it wasn't like I was turning away looking at my phone like I would in a Wahoo match. But no, it was good. And I love the Road Warriors. So anytime I can see the Road Warriors, it probably went a little too high. I guess, again, splitting hairs, you did 1.75. I do doing 2, but nothing offensive, but nothing like, I got to go back and see this match again. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, that's absolutely valid comments. I could have been pushed to go 2 stars myself, but so it's in that ballpark. So 2 stars for Dr. G, 1.75 for myself, and Sean gave this one 1.5 stars in a note that he sent to me. So that's your range, Scott. What did you think of this match?
Coming in hot with Dr. G right now. I gave this 2.
Nice.
It started off with a nice shoulder block at the start from Hulk. And then, as I call him, Creator Baba, because he looks like a creator wrestler from the PS2 wrestling games, which I think is just a joke Callan would get. But he just looks so awkward in the ring. But Hulk was killing Okuyama. Did I say that correctly? But they were just beating the hell out of him. And the super slam from the middle turnbuckle, I wish the Road Warriors would have done that in Crockett, because that looked really tough. I know that was probably bad on their knees, but I would just be like your super special move you bring out in like against the Horsemen or something. But this had more action in 4 minutes than that abomination I had to watch last episode with Arn and Wahoo. There was no smoke breaks to the outside. No BS ending. It was great. I love this. I was down to see more of Road Warriors killing people.
Yeah, I love Road Warriors. I agree.
I mean, that shoulder tackle you mentioned right at the very start, that was immediately within the first 5 seconds of the match was more high impact stuff than we saw in that whole Arn Wahoo match from before. Now, Scott, you mentioned that you wanted to see more of the Road Warriors killing people. From the same day, 31st of May, All Japan TV TV show, there is a match between the Road Warriors against the team of Ishin Gundan, which is Animal Hamaguchi and Riki Choshu. This actually came from the day before the Superpower Series Day 13, but obviously aired on the 31st. Road Warriors, I noticed, come out with the Crockett Cup in tow, which I think is pretty cool. Normally you see them with a trophy at the end of the final match on the show, and then it's forgotten about. But the Warriors are actually lugging it around the world with them, and it's not a small bit of kit. And before I continue, for the avoidance of doubt, just to clear things up before it gets messy, I will call Road Warrior Animal, and Animal Hamaguchi, so I don't try and so I don't think it. I started off. I had to make the distinction after I started my notes there. Hawk begins this match in the same way as before, taking Choshu down before the streamers are even cleared from the ring with a big shoulder tackle. He then presses Choshu above his head, which is very impressive because Ricky is not a small man by any means, and drops him in a press slam before tagging in Animal, who proceeds to hit Choshu with a big body slam off an Irish whip and the big elbow drop. Choshu moves out of the way of a second elbow drop, which allows him to hit Animal with a big running clothesline, which Animal pops right up of, but does sell that he's been hit with a big move, and tags in Hawk. So only half a no sell from Animal, but that was a vicious looking clothesline. Choshu counters Hawk's offense and tags in Hamaguchi, but Hawk quickly takes over, following a brief bit of offense from Hamaguchi. The match slows down momentarily, but Animal is tagged back in and takes down his namesake with a drop kick to regain control. Hawk is tagged back in for a double team move, a double team atomic drop flying punch combo move. Hawk takes Hamaguchi down with a scoop slam, but Hamaguchi has enough in him to get a tag to Choshu. Choshu comes in like a house of fire, getting the boots up on a Hawk charge into the corner, followed up by another big clothesline as the crowd is going wild for their guys. Choshu then locks in the Scorpion Lock, better known to us as the Sharpshooter, but that is broken up by Animal out of desperation, and the crowd really thought that was going to be it on that one. Hamaguchi comes back in and is in control momentarily, but Hawk takes back control and tags in Animal for another double team combo. This time Hawk has Hamaguchi up on his shoulders in a razor's edge like position. An Animal comes off the second rope with a double axe handle, and it turned into a sort of double axe handle dominator type move. Looking to inflict more punishment, Animal lifts up Hamaguchi for an impressive press slam, then tags Hawk back in, who immediately comes off the top rope with a big splash which covers over half the ring. Hamaguchi was absolutely miles away from him. He's almost in the opposite corner. Choshu tried to break up the cover, but it was too late as Hawk gets the 3 count. Again, another great match given the time involved. There's a lot of notes there. They packed in a lot for 3 minutes and 54 seconds. This was a bit less of a squash than the last one. Choshu looked very good in the short burst that he had in the ring. I'm going to go a bit higher on this one, 2.25 for me. Again, it's really only downrated because of the length and not the content. The content within the match itself was really good. So I'll go to you first, Dr. G. What are your thoughts on this one?
I went 2 stars on it. I love watching the Road Warriors, especially, just beat the heck out of people. So it's just good stuff. I mean, kind of, I see where you went. I could maybe have gone a little higher because I guess a little bit better than the first match. You know what? I'm going to amend it. I'm going to go 2.25 stars because I think this one was a little bit better, a little more action-packed. I think Baba is just horrible. So I thought these opponents moved a little better than Baba did. So I'll go 2.25 on this.
No, that's fair enough. Sean went 2 on it, but you could tell that yes, you don't have Baba in it, and you can tell that Ricky Choshu is already becoming a star and will be a star going forward. So yeah, and all in the same ballpark for that one. So more positive things from Japan, unlike some of the previous matches we've had before. But we close off this episode with our territory spotlight, and we head back stateside. This again is from the 31st of May. It's a 31st of May television taping for ESPN from the American Wrestling Association, and it will pit Stan Hansen against Curt Hennig. We start the video with an interview with Jerry Blackwell in the ring, who's supposed to take on Hansen for the title, but has an ankle injury. But he says he's glad Hennig is getting his shot. Hansen comes out and takes exception to Blackwell, calling him nothing more than a yellow, lily-livered coward. He says that he prepared for 2 months for a match with Blackwell, and now he's got an ankle injury, and he hasn't prepared for Curt Hennig, which is making him quite the angry chappie. Hansen then jumps Blackwell in, attacking the injured ankle before Curt comes in and makes the save, and the match begins. Hennig gets the early advantage with a hip toss and a drop kick before it spills outside, and Hansen knocks him into the ring post. Hansen then turns his attention to Blackwell, giving him repeated shots with a chair to the injured ankle. Blackwell is helped out, and we can now concentrate on the match as Hennig knocks Hansen to the outside with an elbow. Hennig is in control with repeated stomps and gets a quick 2 count. Hansen regains control after the kick out and takes Hennig down with a body slam and an elbow for a 2 count of his own. Hansen locks in a quick headlock and then starts to beat down Hansen with kicks and punches. This match is really going back and forth because Hennig gets the upper hand and starts to choke Hansen in the corner, and both men trade blows in the corner before Hansen takes over with a big Irish whip in the corner, which takes Curt down. Hansen guides Hennig down with hard-hitting stuff you'd expect from him, but as quick as Hansen takes over, Curt comes back, countering a head smash into the turnbuckle with one of his own, and then a big scoop slam on Hansen, bringing him back into the ring from the apron. Hennig hits a big splash from the second rope for a 2 count, but Hansen gives a big kick out, which actually throws Hennig out of the ring. Hansen slams Hennig's head into the ring steps and slams him into the seats at ringside. Hansen then tries to pull Curt back in the ring, but Curt fights back and the two brawl briefly on the outside. We hear the announcement of 4.5 minutes remaining, and a sinking feeling enters my stomach because I don't remember hearing a time announcement at the start, assuming this must be TV time remaining. Hansen hits a pile driver on Hennig for 2, broken up because Curt got his foot on the rope. He goes for another one, but this time it's countered by Curt, who follows up with a mule kick for a 2 count of his own. Hennig then hits a monkey flip for a 2 count. There's a bit of back and forth happening before Hennig attempts another monkey flip, but it's countered by Stan. Hansen then goes for an elbow drop, which Hennig moves out of the way. And he rolls Hansen up for a small package for another 2 count. As Hennig is now selling that he needs to hit something big, whilst Hansen is selling a bit of desperation and needing the bell to ring yesterday. Hennig gets repeated 2 counts off of a drop kick, and Hansen then gets a 2 count of his own after an elbow drop. Hansen whips Hennig off the ropes, but Curt comes back with a flying cross body for another 2 count. He then hits a back suplex, but he can't get over for the cover as the 10-second countdown starts. Curt then gets another 2 count as time expires, and Hansen retains the title via the dreaded time limit draw. That was a fantastic match. It was a great back and forth. You could really buy into the fact that Curt could win the match at any time. He just had to hit that one big move to keep Hansen down for the extra second he needed, and Hansen trying to survive more than anything else at the end of the match. So great stuff from both men. I've actually gone 3.5 on this one. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Scott, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I went 2 3/4. The time limit draw really pissed me off. I know, that's a way to keep them both. And that was the norm back then, but I was really into this match. I liked at the very beginning where Hansen was just beating the piss out of Blackwell. It's like you said, I was training for you for weeks, and then Hennig runs out and they're just battling. It's a solid back and forth, and it's so weird to see babyface Curt Hennig here. I know he was in AWA and everything, but then Hansen, when they were on the outside, Hansen was just beating the piss out of Hennig, and I was like, I enjoyed this match so much that I don't even have that many notes just because I was enthralled in it. And then they started doing the countdown, and I literally groaned. I was like, ugh. Because 10 seconds and Henning's not trying to win, which infuriates me. At least try to pin him or something, But he was just la 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 la. I'm gonna hit a move here. So that's why I took away from it. That's why I went 2 3/4. But it was a hell of a match.
Yeah, I can understand downgrading for the sort of hackneyed finish, but yes, I agree. It was a fantastic match, and I think I glossed over how excellent the Blackwell attack at the start was as well. So, yeah, excellent stuff. And Dr. G, round us out with your comments on this match.
I went at 3.5 like you did, Callum, and I like I said, I like the way they set it up with then him attacking Blackwell and then Curt Hennig coming in pretty hot, Hansen beating the hell out of him, which is what you want. You see, you want to have that good baby face, get beat down so they can come back. A little disappointing at the end. Now, again, this happened a lot in those days because if the championship wasn't gonna change hands, it leaves everybody looking good in the end. But I agree with you. I think the only disappointing, probably what prevented me from going 4 stars on it, was the fact that Hennig could have done a little bit more, like he was going to try to pin him, instead of just kind of letting the time run out. So I agree with you, Scott, on that. That probably prevented me from going higher on this match. But I agree with you. I didn't have a lot of notes because I was enjoying it. just very action-packed. The crowd, AWA crowd sometimes are not as hot as some of the other territories, but for this match they were. And Hansen did a pretty good job working with Curt Hennig. Curt, you could see how great he was, at that time, and even we've seen even later in his career. So I really I enjoyed this one a lot. Because sometimes when you see the AWA matches, I'm like, we're gonna get some boring, but this was not boring at all.
No, absolutely not. And you can. We saw not so Mr. Perfect Jerry Stubbs on the last one, and we've now got the real Mr. Perfect, that we all know and love, and he pulls out a typical Mr. Perfect performance. So great stuff all round. I can also confirm that Sean went 3.5 on this one as well. So yeah. I think it's everyone fair comments all round. I can see why the time limit draw has knocked it down for you, Chef. But that closes up another month of television for Crockett. That has now come to the completion of May of 1986. Now we will round up some awards, aggregated awards for the last 2 episodes. So the first award up is the David Crockett Award for the best overall moment. Now I think there's plenty to choose from, but I think I'm actually going to change my mind on the spot here and go with the Tully, Garvin, Leo Burke angle from the 31st World Championship Wrestling. Dr. G, what are you thinking on that one?
I agree with you.
Scott?
Yeah, a close one is Flair re-breaking Morton's nose, but
it's a good one.
It's like 1A and maybe like if we were grading it, it was like a 95 and the other one was like 93, but they were both really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. The Arn Anderson Award for the best promo, I went for Jim Cornette on the one where he introduces Big Bubba and gets himself in a twist about the James Boys. So Scott, what are you thinking on that one?
I'm thinking. Sorry, skip me.
Okay, Dr. G.
I had a tough time with this, but I went on the two Tully interviews.
Good choice as well.
Yeah, Tully and JJ interviews, because I just thought that Tully was really I just love the interaction between those two. And again, they just, I said the Horsemen, they just put everybody else to shame when it comes to the mic work. I don't want to say everybody. Obviously, you got Jim Cornette, and when Dusty's on, he's pretty good. But the Road War, the Four Horsemen are always on. So it was tough, though. I love the Cornette promo as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the Cornette promo. It was just amazing, and he hit all the beats there with the James Gang, and then with going back with Baby Doll. I'm going with them.
No argument there. That's obviously the one I went, but no argument for the Tully ones as well, because it's been excellent promos all round. The Dusty Rhodes Broken Leg Award, that's for the best angle starting or continuing this month. I've actually gone for the James Boys stuff with Jim Cornette, because I think Cornette's carrying this. Dr. G, what you got?
I agree. I like that. The storyline's kind of corny in some ways, but I just love the fact of watching Cornette freak out. It's just good stuff.
Scott?
I'm going to go with Tully, because I loved how, we've had, it's been slowly starting with Garvin. They make him not use the tape anymore, and then he knocks him out with the tape. And I want to see a tape-fixed match between these two men. So that's what I'm going with. And the second would be actually Nikita and Magnum, because we're finally hitting, the peak of this feud.
Yeah, honestly, I tell you, really, all three could be considered fair point on for everyone. There's nothing you could argue with there.
Yeah, I think other than really, I don't think there's many wrong answers unless you went Wahoo and Garvin or the Steve Regal introduction. I don't think there's really any wrong answers on this one. The Magnum TA award for the best match, I've gone for Hennig and Hansen. I don't think anything comes really close to touching it. Dr. G?
I agree. There's nothing that comes close that we've watched.
Let's make it 3 in a row.
I don't think there's going to be any dispute on this one. The Jimmy Valiant Award for worst match, I have gone Wahoo and Arn, as much as it pains me to put Arn in the worst match.
Can we name it the Wahoo Award?
We would, if not for this next one. The Wahoo Award for the least valuable player of the month, I have gone with Wahoo McDaniel.
Yes.
Yep.
I think we're all in agreement on that one.
He's like the Razzies of these awards.
He is a walking Razzie. And finally, the Ric Flair Award for the MVP of the month. I have gone for James E. Cornette because I think he has been fantastic in carrying the James Boy angle throughout the whole time, but certainly in this last episode. Dr. G, what are you thinking?
Oh, I'm having a tough time with this one.
Again, I think this is one of these ones, no wrong answers.
I have to go with Tully. I just love Tully this month.
That's not going to get an argument from me on that one. Chef?
I'm going Tully as well. I love the tape fist stuff, and then he was part of the people that broke Morton's nose as with the Horseman, so I just enjoyed it. And he saved Arn from losing to Hector Guerrero.
Yes,
of course, yeah. No, you're getting no arguments from this side of the pond on that one, because Tully has had, as we mentioned, Tully has been on fire in this last one. Everything he's hitting he's hitting a home run every time he comes out to the podium. But that is us come to the end of another episode, folks. Next time out, we are going to have a special episode. We're going to go back to the pre Crock and Roll year in reviews. We will be discussing matches from prior to our timeline that have taken place in the year 1984. So we've got 6 matches on the docket for that one, carefully curated by Sean, who will be back on that episode. So you have that to look forward to as we just take a short break before we head into June for more Great American Bash build-up. So, Dr. G, what have you got going on for the good people of the PTB Wrestling Network?
Well, you can catch me and the Podfather, Scott Criscolo himself. Every Saturday morning, we drop the NWA Saturday special at 9 a.m. Get your coffee ready, your donuts, whatever you want to eat for breakfast, and listen to us break down the new NWA as we head towards NWA 74.
Excellent stuff. And Chef, what have you got going
on? Just check out all the pods here on the Place to Be Wrestling Network and the Pop feed and the No So feed, and I can be found on Twitter at Scott_Shiflett.
Lovely jubbly, thank you very much. For me, you can find me as a voice on Wrestling's Chicken Salad. Last episode covered SummerSlam 1995. Also, the second episode of Starflation will have come out to you as well, where we looked at KG Muto versus Big Van Vader 5-star match from the early 90s, and the year is escaping me. The Special Relations is due for a comeback any time within the next few weeks or so to coincide with Clash at the Castle. And if you could like, follow and subscribe any and or all of our streaming accounts, twitch.tv/Place to Be Nation, Place to Be Nation, all one word, on YouTube, facebook.com/PTBN Live, or at PTBN YouTube on Twitter. It would be greatly appreciated. But that, as I say, rounds up another episode of NWA Crock and Roll. We will be back in 2 weeks for that special episode where we look at the year 1984 with some of our Crockett favourites, and some hidden gems in there as well. So we look forward to bringing you that in a couple of weeks' time. I believe we've got a special episode lined up for episode 50 also, but we'll be back just giving you a breather before we head into June of 1986. But until next time, we'll see you in 2 weeks.